I talked about in the last Rumble review, the 97 Rumble review, that you could really see in that show that a number of the pieces were starting to, appear. They were there. But maybe WWF at the time didn't fully understand how to piece all those pieces of the puzzle together. But you could also see how striking it was to see how the product was being presented and how the company was being presented at the beginning of 1997 and compare and contrast it to the end of 1997. And now we look at the 1998 Royal Rumble. And, here, obviously, the Attitude Era had begun. You see that dramatic shift in 1 year's time in how the company was being presented, how the product was being produced and presented, and how it was being presented and produced in 1998. It's very striking. What a polar shift between the two. It really was. And I've always looked back on the 1998 Royal Rumble as a really good, memorable show to me. I really have. I don't think it's the greatest Rumble show of all time, but again, I look back on it, and 98 was such a good year for the WWF. Even though I've said before that in some ways I preferred 97 because 97 was when you could see the evolution and change in the company, and you could see a lot of these young players entering into the fold. 98 was when you started to realize that more. But I always love the changes that the company went through in 97, some of the feuds of 97, especially the second half of the year, tremendous stuff. But here we are, Royal Rumble 1998, and a lot of things happened, and it was definitely a show that did a phenomenal job of setting the table for WrestleMania 14, which in of itself, to me, is one of the three greatest WrestleMania shows of all time due to the quality of the matches on the show, the players on the show, and the historical impact of the show. Now, as far as the Rumble itself here, the first match, Vader versus the artist formerly known as Goldust. Vader beats him. A lot of you that maybe are too young to remember are wondering why the hell was he called the artist formerly known as Goldust? Well, older people like me, unfortunately, were around at the time when Prince was going through the disputes over his name and certain other things with his record label, and he started calling himself going by the symbol and the artist formerly known as Prince. And of course, this is when the WWE was starting to realize that pop culture was going in an entirely different direction, and they decided to hitch their wagon to it and mirror it in their product and presentation as much as possible. So here is the artist formerly known as Goldust doing all types of weird, creepy, freaky shit. God, it's fun to go back and watch Luna Vachon at work. Man, was she good. No doubt about it, a shame that she's not in the WWE Hall of Fame, but Sunny is. The second match, speaking of Sunny, where she was a special guest referee, was a 6 Lucha Libre midget tag match for whatever reason. Why did Vince have this on the card? I'll never fucking know. Next. Oh, God. Middle of the card, though. This is where business started to pick up quite a bit, in my opinion. Third match, you've got The Rock versus Ken Shamrock for the Intercontinental Championship. One of my favorite Intercontinental Championship feuds of all time. One of those great feuds where both people were much better off for having been in it. And you had Ken Shamrock on the one hand, a legit tough badass from the MMA UFC world, and everybody knew he was legit and tough and a complete and total badass. He was legit. Nobody questioned that. And then on the other hand, you had the epitome of the five-star talent in The Rock that you knew someday was going to be a huge fucking megastar. If by the time the beginning of 1998 came around, if you weren't sitting there thinking, well, they might keep him down because of the pigment of his skin, other than that, you couldn't deny that you knew The Rock was going to be a big fucking deal. And at that time, you probably thought Ken Shamrock was going to be a big fucking deal. And in some cases, both of them ended up being big deals, at least for a period of time. And obviously, The Rock went on to become one of the all-time biggest stars in the history of the business. But I love this feud. Here's where you take The Rock. And if Cena fans and Cena himself think that fans are rough on him and hard on him chanting, "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks." Think about when The Rock used to get chants of "Die, Rocky, die." And the old WWF of the mid-90s would have sat there and continued to fight it and fight it and fight it and try and force Rocky Maivia and his corny ass down your throat and say, oh, he's all great and awesome, trying to cram him down your throat and cram him down your throat and cram him down your throat. This WWF, the Attitude Era WWF, that was starting to realize that they were tired of getting their asses kicked by Eric Bischoff and Ted Turner in WCW in the ratings every Monday night, said, no, we need to evolve this character. We need to dramatically change The Rock and make him The Rock. What a fun match. The whole use of the brass knucks, and then he tucks him in Shamrock's trunks after Shamrock wins. Rock points it out to the ref, and Shamrock gets disqualified. I used to love about Shamrock was the fact that he would win a match, then lose control, and then lose the match. I thought that shit was awesome. I wish they had more baby faces like that. They weren't all fun and games and good to the kids and the charities. No, fuck it. You like him because he's a badass. He lets everybody know he's a badass. He doesn't back down from every fight. And when he does get into a fight, sometimes he can't control himself and he goes too far over the edge. Great shit. A great match and a great freaking Intercontinental Championship feud that really, I think, started The Rock off on that huge momentum that would lead to him by the end of the year being the corporate WWF champion. Next match, fun feud, fun match, even if it was a bit short. The Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal versus the New Age Outlaws for the tag team championships. Oh, baby. LOD wins by DQ, and I don't care. I mean, here you've got the New Age Outlaws. You go back and watch these guys, and you realize just how good they were, and just how entertaining they were, and just how talented both of them were at what they did. And then you've got freaking LOD, the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal. And it's funny, at my desk at work, I've got a picture up of me, Triple T, Mr. Rao, standing with Road Warrior Animal at the 2012 Tragos Thez Hall of Fame weekend at the Dan Gable Museum in Waterloo, Iowa. And people will see that picture and they might not have watched wrestling in 20 years. And they can recognize Road Warrior Animal. They say, is that who I think it is? Is that guy that used to wear the shoulder pads with the spikes? Was that Hawk or is that Animal? Because they don't know that Hawk passed away back in 2003. And then we get talking about it, and they start talking about professional wrestling, something they haven't watched in 20 years. They talk about how awesome the Road Warriors were, and they talk about how great wrestling used to be. And, it's a great conversation starter. And I love the Road Warriors, my favorite tag team of all time. But another one of my favorite tag teams of all time, the New Age Outlaws, just outstanding. Then we get to the Royal Rumble match itself. And this was a really pivotal moment in the WWF, and I fully believe that. And this, to me, was a great Rumble match. It had several different things going on within the confines of this match that made it really good. And you look at it, first off, you've got Mick Foley entering 3 different times. The fact that you started off with Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie is fucking awesome. But then after Cactus Jack gets eliminated, he comes in as Mankind. After Mankind gets eliminated later on, he comes in as Dude Love. One guy entered in 3 times in the Rumble. He was 10% of the total Rumble entrance. I wonder if he got triple the payout for that. Probably not, but he should have. That shit was gold. You had friggin' Triple H in China trying to fuck with Owen Hart. You had Jeff Jarrett fucking with Owen Hart. And then, of course, Owen Hart gets his revenge on that piece of Memphis mid-card shit, Jeff Jarrett. So, of course, I like that. But then you get down to the nitty-gritty. And the last 3 being Farouk and The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Then eventually it's down to 2. Farouk is gotten rid of, and his fellow Nation of Domination member The Rock is in there with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And you saw this kind of play out 7 years later in 2005 when the last 2 in the Royal Rumble were John Cena and Dave Bautista. It was these 2 young talents, these 2 fresh talents that had big star potential written all over them, and you knew that they were going to be the faces that carried the company into the future, and that definitely proved out to be true. You could see that in 1998 watching this match, that you knew that the WWF was getting it right. They weren't all the way there yet, but they were getting closer and closer by the day, and that you knew that these two guys were going to be the flag bearers, the standard bearers, the top guys in this new era of the WWF. The Rock, excuse me, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin representing the common everyday man, going up against the evil maniacal forces at work above him in that corporate environment, especially namely Vincent K. McMahon. And then on the other hand, you have the kind of all-American guy in the sense that he had everything. He was what everybody wants to be, but deep down everybody hates. He had the five-star tools that I've talked about that so many claim to have, but so few actually have. The Rock actually had it. And then when you throw in the fact that Mike Tyson was there in the skybox, Mike fucking Tyson, in 1998, that was a tremendous deal. This is Mike Tyson, fresh off of a 5.5-year prison sentence. This is Mike Tyson, fresh off of biting off Evander Holyfield's ear. And there's Mike Tyson sitting in the skybox with Shane McMahon at the 1998 Royal Rumble. You knew shit was going to pick up. Stone Cold eliminates The Rock, which is the right move at the time, in my opinion, and becomes, along with Hogan and Michaels, he joins that rare club of being a back-to-back Royal Rumble winner. And then we know what happened the next night, where it's announced that Tyson was there because he's going to be the special referee at WrestleMania 14 for the title match between Austin and Michaels and da-da-da-da-da. And then we get to the main event, and this is also a historically significant match. You have Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker for the WWF Championship in a casket match. And everybody ultimately knows about this match because of what happened to Shawn Michaels with his back. And you know, it was a historically significant thing. Sorry, my camera was kind of frizzing out on me, so I wanted to make sure it kept working. But you know, it's one of those things that is a moment in time, because these were the two of the guys that had been there at the top in Michaels and Taker that had kind of carried the ball for the WWF during a down period and did what they could do to keep the ship afloat. But you could see change was coming. You saw the change in Shawn Michaels, obviously, with D-Generation X and the type of amateurish, childish shenanigans he was pulling off on a week-in, week-out basis. And obviously you also saw the evolution of Taker into more of a goth-type presence at a time where the goth movement was really taking off in the U.S. with groups like Marilyn Manson, movies like The Crow. Goth was it. It truly was. And Undertaker was mirroring it. And then Shawn Michaels was mirroring another portion of American pop culture society. So these guys here that had been there had evolved and had changed and become, in my opinion, that much better for it. And then ultimately, the way this match was set up, where you have Kane getting involved, and you know, you're continuing that storyline between Taker and his brother Kane, setting up to their match at WrestleMania. And Shawn Michaels, you know, he's going to be the guy. He's going to carry the belt into WrestleMania, that old standard bearer, to, you know, go against Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's going to be the new standard bearer. And you got to remember, at this time, Shawn Michaels still had a tremendous amount of heat on him from the fans in the business, and probably people in the business, frankly, for what went down with the Montreal screw job. Easy for me to say. You know, this was a time where Shawn Michaels was a lightning rod for controversy. And it was only going to get worse in the next couple of months. But the most notable thing that everybody remembers about this match is this is where Shawn Michaels really hurt his back badly, that eventually led him to dropping the strap at Mania to Austin, then going away for almost 4.5 years because of that back injury that he suffered in this match. His back had already been bad to begin with, yes, but that injury definitely didn't help it. The bottom line is this, to me, is a significant show because it set the table for the rest of 1998. You have Austin reigning supreme. You've got the supernova that's going to be The Rock really starting to take off. You have other characters being established very well, like Ken Shamrock and Triple H. You see Undertaker's evolving. Shawn Michaels is evolving. There's just a lot of good, awesome shit going on here. This is a really good show. If you have an appreciation for the Attitude Era, if you have the appreciation for the Monday Night Wars, and you have an appreciation for this time period in professional wrestling, you must watch this Royal Rumble show, period.